Hi, I'm Dave March, and welcome to Land of Confusion show, the Ricochet show for members, by members, where we interview members. This is my co-host, Don, over here, and he wants to have a slight special message before we get on to the main event.
That was really smooth.
Yep.
I also brought along my friend, the sock puppet.
Okay.
Sock puppet. I happen to have one of these. They're great. This was back from the that wonderful like the 2000 era .bomb that happened.
Oh, really?
Because pets.com was the startup that failed so brutally, and they went through like $600 million in 9 months flat.
Wow.
It was it was just a wonderful. Oh, we'll talk about it some other time, but it was just the wonderful story about how they did absolutely everything wrong.
You should have just run for president, and Bloomberg showed how that works with what, $3 billion?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to we're talking about getting to the main page on Ricochet, and I had mentioned that I'd recently, because getting to the main page is a pretty cool thing. You get the gold star, you get notoriety, and it's good for, means that your post was, sufficiently interesting that they want to display it in the front. And I'd mentioned that I had recently 2 posts that made it to the main page that were done with like 0 effort. It was like, it has just really 0 effort. In fact, one of them I had been drinking right beforehand. I had like
Perfect
2 glasses of wine and a vodka martini or something. So, late at night, poof, send it off. And that went, within hours, went to the front page. That particular one was after Bernie Sanders had raised an awful lot of money. And I recommended that it would be only consistent if he would spread that wealth among the other candidates, the other 29 or so candidates. And I thought that was a pretty good idea, and that went zip. And the other one was, what was it? It was something similarly quick and silly. Oh yeah. How churches in California were getting around the ban of church services by calling the church services peaceful protests. And that one. So anyway, both of those were like really tiny, and but they zipped off to the front page. And so David says, well, I've been wanting to get our Land of Confusion thing on the front page, so why don't you do it? And of course, so I didn't really intend to do that, but okay, let's do it. And so tap, 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 write out post. And sure enough, hours later, it goes up to the front page. I have no explanation. So that was that. But I think
I think it was probably your graphic, showing Arahant's books.
Yeah, well,
that helped a bit.
Okay. Well, now you know how to do it.
Guest helps too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Clearly, but you heard it here, folks. If you want to get on the front page, main page on Ricochet, it helps to have alcohol while writing your post, according to Don.
It does. It works. Okay.
So today
we have to welcome our guests now.
Yes, our guest here today is Western Chauvinist, Jen Coop, who's joining us from her palatial estate, no doubt, in Colorado.
Oh, whereabouts in Colorado?
Colorado Springs.
Oh, and lovely.
I don't know if you can hear it, but we're getting a heck of a storm right now.
Oh.
It's pouring out there. I might open the window and give you a look.
Yeah, sure. We love that stuff.
Changes all the special effects budget.
Yeah.
See
that?
That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very nice.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna make one more change here. Okay, there we go.
Oh, it's great. It's kind of homey. I like it.
Yeah.
looks comfortable.
It is. We've been here 30 some years in this house, and we love it.
Good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about Colorado Springs. What Sell it, would you?
Oh, wow. It's funny because I had a Ricochet member come by once who was looking to move in retirement. He and his wife came by and we did probably a 10-minute chat. And I actually discouraged them a little bit. And not because it was a Ricochet member, but they were looking for something smaller and I think safer from progressivism. And Colorado Springs, within the last several years, has become the #1 redestination location for millennials. And our real estate prices are going very high right now. I think we accumulated another 25,000 on our property in a few days
Wow.
recently, because everybody's leaving the big cities and they're looking for just this kind of location. We're very near the mountains. It's scenic, it's beautiful. It's been a conservative town the whole time I've lived here until recently. And like the rest of Colorado, you know, it's changing. So this person ended up in Texas.
Yeah.
So
everyone's moving to Texas.
yeah, it makes sense. I think they made a good move. We love it. We don't want to leave. But I told Mr. C last night, you know, they may drive us out of the city.
Oof.
So we may be headed for the hinterlands. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start off with the usual round of questions we try to do here on Land of Confusion. Where were you born and what was it like growing up there?
I was born in small town, Ohio, just about an hour west of Amish country. And the fun thing about that is it was, they have a very small hospital in this town, and they only had a maternity ward open for about 4 years. So I'm in a very exclusive club of people who were born in this hospital. And it was my mother's hometown, and my brothers moved back into the town in adulthood and established businesses, and so they've been doing great there. But when I was 5, we left and moved to a suburb of Cleveland, and so that's really where I grew up, in Strongsville, Ohio.
Okay.
And it was a good place to grow up. Traditional, lots of families, strong families, and I grew up right next to the they call it I can't remember it. It's the necklace that goes around Cleveland. It's a chain of parks.
Oh, okay.
And Rocky River ran through it, and I spent my time running through the woods and sliding down shale banks and swinging on grapevine. And, you know, it was a great place to grow up.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. I grew up in the countryside in a similar kind of way, but it was less of a city and more of a countryside by that time I got out there.
Can you hear the rain?
Oh, yeah. I
Okay.
totally can.
You guys are going to have to speak up because I'm having trouble hearing.
Okay, well, I'm speaking directly into my microphone now.
Okay, thank you.
It sounds great.
Yeah.
We need the moisture, but wow, it's pretty intense right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, we certainly know how to choose the right exact time to call and set up these shows. You get the real deal here on Land of Confusion.
That's right.
And speaking of rain, I got to say, California, which almost never ever gets thunderstorms, we got a killer one 3 days ago. I'd never seen so much lightning. And,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and now we have a whole bunch of forest fires going on. I'm okay here, but I know people in that direction and people in that direction who have to evacuate. So it's crazy out here.
Yeah.
Have you been suffering?
Yeah, we've got a couple big fires. They've actually closed I-70 between Glenwood Springs and Gypsum up in the mountains. The fire has totally surrounded the I-70 corridor there. And So we're hoping the cooler temperatures and this rain is getting to them.
Have you been suffering through the rolling blackouts down there, Don?
Okay.
No, but others have.
Okay. Okay.
That would be hail.
Okay.
Okay. Now we
That's
have
hail.
some.
That's hail season. Yeah.
Okay, that's some solid weather you're having.
Yeah.
I very rarely get hail in here in Ontario, except during the winter.
Yeah. Usually if we get a thunderstorm, we get hail, but this is a good one.
Is that from the mountains?
It's the dynamics of the mountains and the systems coming over. Yep.
You should have done this out on your porch or something.
Thought about it.
Okay. Why did you become a conservative, and when did you realize you weren't like all the other kids?
So I'm the youngest of 7, and my parents were FDR Democrats, and because they were Catholic, they were Kennedy Democrats too, and so we just grew up naturally being liberals, I would say, not leftists but liberals. But when I went away to college, I dropped out of the faith and I turned left. And I thank God to this day that I met Mr. Chauvinist because he was just a solid conservative, just, a reasonable conservative. He wasn't too far off to the right, a nice guy. Everybody likes him. He likes people.
Doggos.
So, yeah.
We have doggos.
So we got married, and I was still pretty left liberal, and then I went back to school after I moved out here, and sorry.
That's okay. I like dogs.
I love the sound of doggies.
I got 3 of them, so this could get interesting. So I went to college I became friends with other women in engineering school, of course. And so these women were left as well. And I remember the sneering that we would do about conservatives. And it wasn't pretty. And what actually, there were 3 things that turned me around. One was my sister Trink, who she and her husband, he's a radiologist, and they were so tired of being accused of being the dirty, filthy rich and, not deserving their money and expecting it to go everywhere else to other people who hadn't earned it, right?
Yep.
And so they turned conservative. They were pretty hard left when they were younger. And we had lots of conversations, and in one of them she asked me, she said, so you believe in social engineering? And I didn't really answer her at the time, but it was one of those seeds that was planted, and I went away and I thought about it. And I thought, I really don't believe in social engineering. Who's gonna do this engineering? Who's qualified to tell people how they should be living? So that was a factor that opened me up, and it made me consider that I had been wrong in the way I'd been thinking about things. And it was so important that it came from someone that I trusted and that I knew loved me, And then, believe it or not, there were 2 documentaries from Frontline that changed me, and one of them was The Commanding Heights. Have you guys seen that one?
No, I don't believe I have.
Commanding Heights.
No.
It's about economics, and there are some lefties on this, but it's so old that they were honest. and they were talking about Bolivia and, you know, hyperinflation and how they brought these places out of it. And it just didn't sound like leftism, you know, was working. And so that made me think about the economics totally differently. And the other one was the documentary about Pope John Paul II, which was, it was called A Man For or Against the Millennium. And so really my political conversion and my religious conversion, because I came back to the church, really
Quick
happened.
note to put these in the write-up.
Oh yeah. Those are great shows. You need to look those up. They happened simultaneously, really slowly, very, very slowly. But those were very influential in my conversion. And that Pope John Paul documentary, one of the things that got to me was they interviewed Germaine Greer. And, you know, she's a lefty, big feminist lefty. And she talked about going into Notre Dame Cathedral. And she happened to be there when the choir was practicing. And she said she was so moved that she couldn't help herself. She broke out crying. And I thought, you know, this is a smart person who doesn't believe like I don't believe, right? But she obviously had a transcendent experience, and there's something to that. And so I started to consider other conservative thinkers like William F. Buckley, Catholic, right? Mm-hmm. And how smart they were. Way smarter than I am. And I'm thinking, you know, maybe they're onto something. And so it helped me really, like I say, I would say the biggest factor in my conversion is self-doubt. Is that I finally started to think, I don't think I have all these answers. I don't think I have this right. Now, what are you seeing in the streets right now? You're seeing the opposite of that. These are people who are very sure that they know all the answers.
Yeah, I agree.
You mentioned social engineering, which I think the answer for that always is, you know, killer opportunities for graft and corruption. Endless opportunities for graft and corruption.
Well, you know, and that is the thing about the left is, Mr. C and I were just talking about this last night, that they are fundamentally anti-human. They are against all of the things that make us human. And one of those things is human nature. They don't believe in it. And that is what our constitutional government protects us from, right? Is social engineers. Because we separate powers, and we make the people sovereign. So the left has it all wrong, all of it.
Well, I've said before on other shows, but I every time I say it, it makes me feel better. It seems to me that the left is less ideological and more driven by power. And this ideology happens to have lots of openings for power, and I think they're far more consistent with respect to gaining power in various ways than they are ideologically consistent. Just my opinion.
Oh yeah, it's totally capricious and arbitrary because that is how you get power, right? Is you change the game board, you keep changing the game board so that you win. And that's what they do.
Well, bring the dog into the frame.
Oh, okay. Well, which one? This is the corgi puppy. This is Bitsy. Her official name is Princess Buttercup.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
And then this one, well, this is Pepper.
oh,
Pepper is a border terrier.
oh, it's beautiful.
So we're Anglophiles. All our dogs are British.
I love the
Okay.
doggos. Thank you for that.
Yeah. There's another corgi, but she's geriatric and she probably won't come out of the basement.
Okay. Okay, so on to what is the most important part of conservatism to you?
It kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, that conservatism has its human anthropology correct. It knows that the family is how humans are supposed to interact and develop within a family structure. It knows that people are not fundamentally good and can't be trusted with unlimited power. It's the anthropology piece that it gets right. And that's everything. Why are we here? You know, what are we good for? What is the good life? Conservatism is the only ideology that gets that right, in my opinion.
No, pretty good.
Yeah. I believe we're all conservatives here. We've had guests who are classical liberals, and I don't think we've had a true libertarian yet, though I tried to get a couple. But the one I know for sure is Rufus R. Jones, and he just said, I don't want to be on the show. I'll watch. I don't want to do it. I was like, too bad. I really would love to have him on.
Yeah,
I love Rufus. Yeah, I'd love to hear what Rufus has to say.
Especially since he's in the heart of Minneapolis. And
Oh, is he?
yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
He's
Oh, wow.
He's mentioned
really?
he was one of the first times when the riots first broke out. He's like, yeah, well, all these people, white Democrats, have been basically trying to bribe black people from keeping them in like almost like plantation style system in Minneapolis, keep us out of the way and out of mind, so we don't mean much. He was not very shocked by the riots.
And this is a plea from me to Ricochet members who are on the spot, on the scene where some interesting stuff is happening, say Minneapolis or Portland or what have you. If you could report in, first off, that we know you're doing well, and if you get some shots or some inside insight on how things are, because regular news reporting doesn't do a very good job. No, and the situation's so weird. It's really kind of hard to comprehend in traditional ways, right? That mayor, city council would say, okay, let's let them burn the city. Yeah, that's really strange. Yeah. So and we're not understanding that, and we can make up all sorts of theories, but it would be better to have someone on the scene. Mm-hmm. But Colorado Springs is cool right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's see, when the protests first broke out, they did have to use tear gas downtown. I haven't been down to see if General Palmer is still on his horse. So I don't know about that. I don't know if the statues have been taken down. But we did have that very ugly protest where they showed up at a policeman's home in a residential neighborhood. And that video is available online. It's an hour long. It's over an hour long.
Wow.
And it was very ugly. And I feel so bad for these people. And how are we gonna stop them? Because
it's easy. I think arrest them and jail them.
Yeah,
that would be the right thing to do.
That's the normal operating procedure. It's not tough. They're not really heavily armed. They're not extra strong in general. Any competent police department can pick them off,
when
ding,
they're
ding,
allowed
ding.
to do their jobs. But I mean, I remember someone saying that, well, Trump can't send in the police to do these things in Seattle and Portland and Washington State, like these things. And I'm like, would you say that LBJ had it wrong when he sent in the FBI to get after the Ku Klux Klan? Because this is exactly the same scenario, except it's Trump's going after people you prefer.
Yeah. And it's kind of worse because, well, yeah, I guess it's similar.
Yeah.
But this is where I guess it's worse. I mean, people running in the city, and this is all local stuff. This is the local to any given city. This is local people rioting against the locally elected mayor who runs the locally run police force.
Yep.
And
they wanted to cause massive change, but they're just going to go vote for all these Democrats back in. These cities have all been controlled by Democrats for 50 years, usually, except for New York.
Right.
And, hey guys, do you hear my weather alarm?
Oh.
Is it now telling you a storm's on the way?
Yeah. You know how good they are at predicting. No, it's flash flood. Luckily, we're way up on a hill, so that's not a problem for us.
Yeah. To their credit, though, generally Republicans don't run for these offices, or the ones that do run put in such limited energy. They effectively don't run because they've written it off. They've said, it's not worth trying. And so these folks in these cities just haven't had a choice for a long time.
And that's an issue we also have here in Ontario, but every premier or conservative leader I've dealt with the last couple elections has promised that they were going to start putting in the effort and trying to retake the cities. Unfortunately, our current premier made that promise, but hasn't really followed up on it. The guy before him, I thought, really would have, and is now a mayor of a city after he was fell apart in a Me Too scandal early on, which he eventually proved he was not guilty of when he sued the papers for publishing misleading stuff. But by then he had been kicked out. So
yeah, and as I mentioned on the Minneapolis Post, I think what we see here is the direct consequence of single party rule. And there's no competing parties to, no checks and balances.
Yep.
Party rule is a problem in both directions. And I can tell you that because El Paso County, Colorado Springs, has always been so conservative that that all the decisions the voters had were made in the primaries. We only elected Republicans. Now, what I've since learned, and this is maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was in a social setting and I overheard a woman who's a reporter on the local news telling someone else that I think it was the mayor at the time, the mayor was a woman and she ran as a Republican, but she was really a liberal, a lefty.
Yep.
And so whenever you have single party, people lie and they just take those spots that you would want a conservative to have. But anyway, I was also going to say about the local control thing. The problem here in Colorado is actually at the state level because the legislature, and I'm not going to remember what this is called, but they limited the immunity. It's not exactly immunity of the policemen. So the policemen have backed off. They've said, if we're not protected, we're just going to sit in our patrol cars. And I have this from a secondhand source that a 30-year veteran of the police force said that's what he does. He sits at the mall in his cruiser all day, and he doesn't respond to calls unless there's something serious.
Yeah, we have a situation like that in Hamilton, where I live, where a local city councilor is now the federal MP here, or basically our congressman. He got deliberately picked a fight with the police department to try and show that because he's black, and he wanted to try and make a name for himself by saying they're racist. And as a result, in his ward, when he was a city councilman, the cops stopped responding to anything short of a gunshot.
That's where we are.
And all his people suffered for it, but they still voted for him because they got the unions tell them this is who you're supposed to vote for.
Well, that's a good thing about this election, right? Is the police unions are coming out for Trump.
Yep.
Yes. Well, not surprisingly, after this mess.
Yeah.
This is so extreme. I mean,
Let's defund the police departments, okay? So you don't want them supporting you anymore.
So what do you think happens if Trump wins? If he doesn't win, it's bad. But if he wins, I mean, the Democrats have already gone insane. Mm-hmm. So what's left?
My guess is that some people, there'll be the people who are left who will say, now we've let the insane people have their shot. We're going to have to get rid of these people. And you'll see something like similar to what I can't remember. He was the one of Bill Clinton's big advisors. I was watching him being interviewed one time, and he said maybe he was talking about how they got the election going, and they're like, Reagan won 49 states. Maybe it's not the American people. Maybe it's us. Maybe we need to look and readjudge. And of course, then they found Bill Clinton and they won, right? But
I don't know. I would be surprised if that's what they do. I think they're so far gone.
I think it depends on how much they lose by. If it's close or if it's not even close. Yeah. I mean, I like to say
Trump wins 40 states and
plus Greenland,
a definitive win on the popular vote. Like you could, that will just crush these people.
Yeah,
which I hope to see.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, but yeah, we'll see what happens. He's regaining in the polls. Oh, did you guys hear what happened with the DNC coverage at the with what the Republicans and Trump have done to the DNC coverage? They bought the Google banner and the YouTube banner and all the advertising on all the DNC stuff, so that when you're a YouTube watcher watching stuff on the DNC channel, you get Trump ads.
Yeah.
They bought all the advertising surrounding the DNC, which the DNC should have bought, but they didn't for whatever reason. So there's there's a YouTube banner that's Trump 2020 and all this other stuff. And it's just like...
Also, this convention, the DNC convention, has just been horrible. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just bad television.
Yep.
And bad presentation. And just, I mean, last night's was cringeworthy.
Oh, you put yourself through that?
No, a little bit, skipped around a lot.
Yeah, I only watch the after effects. Greg Gutfeld or somebody commenting on it. Then I get to see it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they had after Kamala Harris did her big intro, they had a wall of images of the people who were zoomed in, who were fans who were clapping. It was an array of 5x6 images of some of the people who were zoomed in. And if you look closely, they didn't have enough people, so they duplicated some of them.
Yeah.
Duplicated images. Like three sets of duplicated ones.
Well, and then I did see that where funny. She finishes her talk and they pan back and you see this empty auditorium.
Yeah.
With the state polls sticking up.
Yeah.
And the screen with the 30 people or whatever up there with duplicates. And there's this silence.
Yeah.
It's awkward.
Mhm.
45 seconds of
Yeah.
nothing. There's no applause. There's it's really bad. I don't know what Trump is. Do you know the plans for the convention for the Republicans?
I understood
don't,
that at one point they were going to have like a live audience. I think they scrubbed that, but I think there's still going to be people there. I think they should have done like live outdoor auditoriums where you can have
He
half
was talking
scenes.
about. I thought he was talking about outdoor.
Yeah.
Did that change? I don't know.
I think they did get really panicked on the COVID numbers in the summertime in
Oh.
some of those places, unfortunately.
Okay.
well, I think, Trump knows television. I don't
Yeah.
think.
I mean, they had 14 million people watch the Tulsa rally where he only had 6,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
So
I think Trump will do something good there.
Oh, definitely, it's got to be better. Well, I mean, it's so impossible for Democrats because everything they say is a lie. And you cannot build anything good out of lies. You just can't do it. I mean, that's a violation of basic ethics.
Yeah.
And, you listen to Bill Clinton talking about, you guys heard that probably, what behavior in the Oval Office. Did you hear that?
I just
What is the
knew that
conduct?
anything he'd say would be very ironic at best.
Yeah, what is the conduct in the Oval Office? And Greg Gutfeld went after that. Ooh,
Yeah.
ouch. Yeah.
And of course, all those pictures of Bill Clinton hanging out with Epstein came out on the day of the convention.
Yes.
Yep.
So this is very funny.
Mhm.
And of course, and debates are coming up too.
Mhm.
And that's going to be crazy.
I'm very looking forward to when Joe Biden gets angry and threatens to kill the president on TV.
So this is just the most entertaining thing I've ever seen.
What do you put? What odds do you put on it? The debate's actually happening.
I think Trump will make. The way you worded that question, it's entirely possible that we know Trump wants it, but it's entirely possible Biden might just not show up, right?
It's true. I think that if he refuses, Trump's going to have a cardboard cutout of Joe Biden for him to debate against. And they'll just have an audio recording of like Joe Bidenisms just running against Trump, and he'll just make an entertaining show out of that. And once that's happened at least once, they'll have to come out. I think he'll just do all these things, just like insult them in ways that they have no other choice. We've already seen that Trump jumped 10 points in the polls in the last week or so.
Yeah.
So, and the one thing I can say since 2016, I was like in 2016, I really followed the polls a lot, and I really saw when Trump suddenly switched, and it was in the last 2 weeks election. And in Canada, we have very short elections. We have like 30-day elections. So things happen a lot faster than what I think the American press is used to, which is that it's all been predetermined months in advance, but they're not. The thing I've most figured out is that most of the populace, 80 to 90%, are going to make their decision on who they're going to vote for in the last week. And and a large percentage of that, I'd say at least 50, are going to make it in the last day. So all these polls are great for the people who are running campaigns to figure out what they're doing. But I think for a large portion of it is not as good for like everyone else paying attention to it. That's why you get these kind of weird swings. But yeah, I was watching it I've told the story a few times, but in the last 2 weeks of the 2016 election, I watched, I was despairing. I was like, I guess we've had this thing. I saw Hillary Clinton had 222 electoral votes locked up on Real Clear Politics, and Donald Trump was at 120. And over the course of the next 2 weeks, Donald Trump didn't move from that 120, but Hillary Clinton's 222 dropped to 97.
Whoa.
And I was like, that's the momentum, and it's all going one way, so Trump's going to win this. I even then I thought he'd only get I thought we'd be up to 4 a.m. watching New Hampshire, coming in, and it'd be like basically a bare win of like 303, like their 4 electoral votes would be the clincher or something like that. But the fact is that it was all over at 10 o'clock when Arizona was declared.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't declared, but when Arizona came in, Alaska was declared for Trump. Arizona, they weren't going to say it, but at that point he had 269 votes, because I was looking at Texas.
Now I disagree with you there.
Mhm.
I think it was decided a long time before,
Mhm.
but I don't think that the polls were honest.
Ah,
And none, like for instance, the 538 poll never had Trump ahead, never. And because as far as like economic mechanisms, polls don't get rewarded if they're accurate.
Mhm.
And they do get rewarded to be biased.
Mhm.
And because, you know, the party will happily pay a poll or fund the poll to show a bias in their direction, to show people they're on a winning side.
Mhm.
Slightly conspiratorial, but it's a mechanism. It's a guaranteed mechanism.
Mhm.
And so we, even though the polls were wildly wrong last time, we still refer to them this time. So there's no loss for being incorrect. So I used a different poll. I looked at the rallies and the YouTube views for the rallies,
Mhm.
and the thumbs up, thumbs down on those YouTube views. And it was like 2 orders of magnitude difference.
Yeah.
So, and by that I mean like factor of 100
Is that what you're doing this time
in terms of
around?
viewership, in terms of energy behind the rallies. And in fact, it's kind of hard to find Hillary rallies on YouTube anymore.
No.
It's kind of hard. Try it. Look around. See if you can find any. Yeah.
But you seem big on the rallies this time, Don, and the boat parades and all that. Like, is that the measure you're using? Trump enthusiasm?
Well, the enthusiasm, yeah. No one ever thought of measuring boat parades before. That's never been a metric, right?
There's suddenly like, do you see a walkaway movement on the right, or that you see on the left all the time? There's a whole these things going on out there where people are just saying, I've had it enough with these Democrats and I'm voting for Trump.
That's
I
true.
almost never hear it the opposite direction.
Right. There's the walkaway movement. There's the Blexit movement.
Mhm.
There's a couple more I'm not thinking of.
Mhm.
And yeah, they're substantial. And his name is Brandon Strzok is his name, who does the walkaway movement.
Mhm.
His videos, he was originally very Democrat, very much a
Yeah.
Democrat, and he changed because when he discovered what was going on, and he changed with a vengeance and started producing these series of videos they're powerful. They really seem from the heart. It doesn't look like these folks are actors.
Nope.
And it seems from the heart, and they describe their situation, and it's good television, and there's a lot of it.
Yep.
So yeah, I think, you know, if you just measure enthusiasm, well, that's again 100 to 1 difference right there. And enthusiastic voters, you generally go trust them. They'll take it there. But yeah, I any metric you can come up with that is somehow related to enthusiasm, I think Trump wins.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Even though like boat parades was never considered a metric before.
Yeah. Well, I'll get back to our survey of questions, and then
Oh, yes.
Why
We've
did you
drifted.
join Ricochet?
I joined Ricochet because somebody was wrong on the internet.
Hmm?
And
There
the
are wrong
only
people on the
way
internet?
the only way I could correct them was to buy the membership so that I could comment.
You go, girl.
But yeah, actually, I think my sister Trink was the one that pointed me towards Ricochet from National NRO.
Mhm.
And I came over and I was reading, and somebody said something and I'm like, no, that's just wrong. And oh man, okay, $5, I can do that. And that was in 2010. So I'm a founding member.
You and what is it? Nematil Nod there?
Oh, Nemlet.
Namlet Nod, yes.
No,
Are
yes.
the two founding members, and I'm just this guy who came in a few years too late. And what is the thing you most like about Ricochet?
Wow. Well, the community is awesome. I hosted a meetup here in the Springs about, I want to say 5 years ago, maybe a little longer. And we had people coming in from New Mexico and surrounding states, and from Louisiana. And it was the most fun I've ever had.
Wow.
At a party. And, I believe it or not, I tend to be kind of an introvert. And I think that's very characteristic, actually, of a lot of Ricochet people.
Yep.
But the opportunity to be with people who you share so much in common with, in the way you think and what you believe, was just, it's so comforting and it's so much fun. And so we've developed a great community on Ricochet over these many years. It's been amazing. And people really care for each other, and people get married, and it's just great. So that's awesome. And then the other thing that I have to say is, I had my own blog for a while, and being able to be heard when you feel like you have something important to say, that's just huge. It's just huge. Okay. I love it. I don't write often, but when I do, I'm pretty passionate about what I'm writing about usually. And so it comes easily in a strange way. It's like, I gotta say this. Somebody's wrong on the internet. Yep. And people read you and they comment, and wow, that's just, the interchange is just great. Yep. I just love it. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we'll get back to Trump for a bit. What is the biggest victory of Trump that you think what do you think his biggest accomplishment has been so far?
Oh, I should have read the questions in advance. Sorry.
Well, this is just my off the cuff. I'm just looking through your groups, and I was like, you're in the Happy Warrior group, and I was like, hey, what's the biggest thing to celebrate?
Gosh. Actually, there are so many. And honestly, if you've seen the list, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I love his foreign policy. I think taking on China is absolutely the right thing to do. I think getting us out of the Middle East is the right thing to do. Yeah. Making friends with Israel is the right thing to do. Holding our friends accountable in NATO. I love that. It's like, finally somebody is on our side, on America's side.
I'm totally well aware that me and my fellow Canadians are a bunch of freeloaders.
We love you anyway.
Yeah, no, it's okay. But I just I'll whenever I have some friends on the Facebook spouting off, I'm like, we're a bunch of freeloaders. Like, you want to get us, you're upset that they're not making these commitments. Why aren't we making our commitments? And then. Yeah. Well,
and that's the thing is, all the military guys on Ricochet. It gives you perspective on the human sacrifice. People sacrifice lives. I mean, not always to the death, but their lives are dedicated to good causes. And I always thought that was the biggest tragedy of the election of Barack Obama, was that he didn't care. He didn't care about the lives of our servicemen. And he never intended to win anything. And he was an appeaser. And those men and women, but mostly men, were laying it down for this. I was going to use profanity, but ungrateful man, arrogant man. So yeah, I would say on foreign policy, I love him. I love that he loves the country, and he really wants what's best for the American people. And he does it for all the American people, no matter how many times they call him racist. It just isn't true. And I don't know. What do you guys think? Give me something to work with here. What else? What do you think are the big accomplishments?
I think if I was going to come up with one, I would say that he's shown us that he's not a politician. He's a businessman, and people who are professional politicians have learned to make a lot off the system in terms of bribes, grabs, bureaucracy, regulations, selective enforcement, whatever, any of those things. It seems that pretty much anybody who's a professional politician, a politician by profession, has an opportunity to be really, really crooked, and he's exposed a lot of that.
Yes.
And the window of crookedness that gets through, it seems enormous, and he's the one. I think he's really exposed that, and I think the idea of he's shown that it's possible to be not be crooked in this business, but not if you're a professional, not if you're a professional politician. So I think we need more non-politicians in office.
I
was trying to think about what I thought was his best thing, and I can say one thing I think is that he crushed and humiliated Jeb Bush for the impudent thought that he could just, by money and name recognition, become president of the United States. I know Jeb Bush is a good, decent governor from Florida, but the fact that this guy thought he could just walk in with a ton of money and just take, because it was his turn to be president. Yeah. And I thought that was, I thought it was arrogant. I was hoping at the time Ted Cruz would be the one beating the crap out of Jeb Bush, but I'm glad that Trump did it.
Did it quickly and
how ironic
easily.
How ironic that this man who's accused of incompetence and corruption exposes incompetence and corruption.
Right.
In our government and in our media. That might be his biggest achievement, is exposing the corruption in media. Yeah. Because the media really is the enemy of the people. It really is. They are misinforming us if they even bother,
That's quite the understatement.
Yeah. Yeah, they're propagandizing us, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's full tilt propaganda. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we'll have to look at the whole peaceful protester. That video where the CNN reporters in front of the burning building with riots going on in the background going like, oh, they're only just peaceful protests here today. I know, just ignore what's behind me. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Did you listen to Andrew Clavin on that one? He did in his opening.
I love his openings.
Aren't they great?
Yeah.
And he did the one on the mostly peace, mostly this, mostly that. Oh, it was great.
Yeah,
He's spot on.
He's so good at that.
Yeah.
It's a superpower.
Yeah.
Yep. And he's one of those guys who didn't want Trump to get elected at the time, but he's one of my biggest favorites is the fact of all the people Trump converted by delivering results, and that we just got.
I'm a convert.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a convert. When he ran, I said, I'm pretty sure I said it on Ricochet, that he was all the worst things that people said about conservatives and Americans. He's the ugly American, the prototypical ugly American.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrong. That's another time I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
You were wrong on the internet.
Yeah.
Someone commented on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What else have I got here? Well, you know what? We're coming to, like, normally we do about an hour of this show, and I think we should run out on a high note of like who are
It's gone by
recently
quickly
converted
and
Trump
fun.
status. So, but I do usually have one last question, and I'm going to drop it here. Is who would you like to see us interview next?
Besides Rufus.
I would love to see Rufus.
I asked him, but he just didn't want to do it.
Darn. I don't know. I think you've got a lot of the people that I would have said. I would love to have Jean Bodine.
Okay.
I haven't seen her around a lot lately. I hope she's still around, but I think she's a riot. And
okay. I'll try and see if she's around, and we'll try and get her on the show. I know that next week we're looking to get Arizona Patriot in.
Ooh, nice.
And I had talked to him where he kind of dropped off the net. Turns out he was just finishing up an appellate briefing. So maybe we can ask that about him about that. We have, I reached out to Blue Yeti to do a future show. And Randy Wavito, who's got a really tough time slot. So we'll have to figure that one out with him. He can only do Saturday evenings for a recording. So we'll have to figure out that on our schedule.
Well, if you're looking for wigs too, the original editors, I always like to hear from Molly Hemingway.
Okay.
And Troy.
She's big time now.
Yeah, she's
I
really
know,
big.
but did I ever mention the half hour I got to spend talking to Molly at the Broadmoor at one of the Hillsdale events? Sorry, I just have to, name drop.
I guess we have one other thing we do. It sounds like you both want to sit down and do a jam session at some potentially future point. We'll have to use a different. Zoom is not the best quality way to do recording, according to Don.
Apparently Zoom only lets one person's audio through at a time.
Yeah, that would not work well, would it? No. Yeah.
Unless we synchronize it really well.
All right.
Okay.
Well, it's been great talking. I've enjoyed this, guys. A lot of fun.
It's been a blast.
Yep. So I'll hopefully get this into your hands tonight, Don, so you can.
No. I've taught you how to do it now. I've taught you how to do it.
Oh, is that how it works? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good night, all.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.